They are surprisingly agile. How can fatty cell beings move like that, Alf? Agneil was sitting in the ship projection room with his friend Alf, watching a human game called football, on recommendation from the crew. Indeed, right? Their muscles are pull-only, woven out of grabby proteins that pull on stringy proteins. Their fibers contract fast. Won't pretend I understand it, but at least makes up for the slow calcium-sodium-based neural signaling. Agneil widened his 7 eyes, and shook his single manipulating limb in exasperation. Wait, you mean they have a calcium-sodium alloy neurons instead of silver nanowires? That's absurd! It would have been okay if it were something more reasonable, like gold, or even graphene, but metallic sodium was horribly unstable in contact with water. There was no way water-based creatures could create sodium nanowires in their bodies. But even more ridiculous was that calcium and sodium were not even that good electrical conductors. How in the stars were electrical signals going to propagate through thin sodium-calcium nanowires? Ah! Realization hit him. They must have repeating cells scattered across their entire nervous systems to propagate the signals. Maybe that's why their movements were so smooth. The delay caused by the repeating cells ended up functioning as a low-pass filter that degraded the pulses. That must be it! At this point, Agneil had chosen to pretend the explosive sodium-water interface problem didn't exist. Alf leaned closer. I know what you're thinking, and no. They don't have nanowires. Their neurons are just hollow fatty cells filled with sodium, calcium, and protein chemical soup. And when I mean slow, I mean absurdly slow. Think a couple of hundred lengths per second. Nothing even close to our near light speed signaling. Agneil scoffed. And how do you expect their central calculation cores to finish a motor solution in less than 1,000 cycles, then? It seems you are just making up stuff now. They don't have central calculation cores. Agneil frowned. What? Now you're going to say they don't have central memory cores? No. In fact, that's the only thing they have. And weirder, their brains are like huge cross-wired memory units. That made Agneil lose it. Fine! Then that's it. They are just big balls of memory units, and their motor control subsystem is a big memory unit that stores every single possible motion trajectory they can think of. That totally makes sense, said Agneil in a sarcastic tone. That's a huge oversimplification, but yes, that's it, said Alf, shaking his tail, his version of a nod. Agneil rose up from his chair and walked towards his friend, narrowing his leftmost 2 eyes. I've talked to those fatty-celled beings once. They are primitive, but definitely sapient. You want me to believe their entire central nervous system is made out of just memory circuits? Alf stared back, with the most serious expression he could muster. I know it sounds ridiculous. I had the same reaction when I learned about their anatomy. Everything is basically content-addressable memory. Agneil relaxed his posture and resigned. He knew certain species could be weird. Okay, then how can they even have complex thoughts? Do they just store everything their senses observe? Then what is the hash function? Asked Agneil. The hash function is the memory itself. Think billions of slow memory units that are extremely unreliable and noisy. They only store data when they work, answered Alf. Fine, let's pretend that makes sense. Then what is their thought representation like? It's made of corrupt recalled data that has been stored and recalled and corrupted multiple times, answered Alf. How do they even do calculations with that clumsy system? They don't. They just recall stored answers. Sometimes they recall the wrong answer, but they sometimes also recall an answer to a question they've never seen. And somehow it works. But what are the questions made of? Stored memories. And what coordinates the whole system made of pure memories, then? The memories coordinate the system made of memories. Agneil walked back to his chair and sighed. Humans are weird.